Any sponsorship ideas?
Unit 7. Finance and Banking. Recording 7.1.
Joanne, what major factors do you think have affected international banking in recent years?
All right, I think there are four major factors which have affected international banking recently. These are globalization, secondly, the new regulatory frameworks, thirdly, one would speak of new technology aspects, and finally, direct access to capital markets by essentially small and medium-sized companies.
And what about new technologies? What role have they had to play when it comes to international banking?
I would say that if something is technologically feasible as well as financially viable, then chances are that this will become a new financial instrument. For instance, markets use nowadays very powerful technology platforms which allow banks as well as large corporations to transfer money at the click of a mouse. So they have the ability, therefore, to carry out international transactions in a way which could have not been done before.
Could you give us some examples of those international transactions?
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of examples. New banking services which have resulted from these technology developments, like electronic letters of credit, electronic direct debits, or even international check truncation, where paper doesn't travel anymore. Consequently, the technology or the technological factor is an absolutely crucial issue within the financial markets.
And what about the final factor affecting international banking? I mean, the direct access that companies now have to capital markets.
Okay, during the 70s, only large companies had access to capital markets. Nowadays, however, we have small and medium-sized companies which also have access to the capital markets. So nowadays, companies, instead of requiring the more traditional banking services like commercial bank lending, companies are in need of more sophisticated banking services, such as, for instance, bond issues, mergers and acquisitions, corporate restructuring, to name a few. So we've seen then a substantial increase in investment banking services as opposed to the traditional banking services of the past.
Recording 7.2.
So how does the future look like from the bank's perspective?
You basically have three different types of banks. The truly global banks, very large banks, these will continue to be the same. The second group consists of large regional banks. In this group you will see a few more banks coming to play in this sphere. And third, we would include the smaller banks. These smaller banks will continue to do well because they have a very focused business orientation, and they tend to basically focus on strategic market segments.
And where products and services are concerned, what developments are we seeing there?
Well, we'll see a lot of new things, a lot of new services, like an increase of bundled products, which consist of basically a package where you would include savings accounts, you would include the credit cards, renting, pension funds, insurance, consumer finance, all together with a single label.
And what are going to be the new delivery channels? You mentioned internet banking previously.
Yes, well, we've gone from a physical branch type of banking to a new banking based on internet. So we've gone from, we call it bricks and mortar retail banking, to either a clicks and bricks banking or a clicks and clicks banking. The clicks and bricks banking is a sort of banking where you're combining both the branches, the retail branch network, with a powerful internet banking services. But then you also have banks which only operate through internet. This is what we call the clicks and clicks sort of banking activities.
And apart from the internet, what other new delivery channels are there?
Well, you also have what's called WOP services, which is using cell phones to do all the banking transactions that you could be doing. Of course, the ATMs are very important, and also lately you begin to see as well the digital TV banking, where you're using your TV set to do your banking needs. So when you're sitting on your couch, instead of watching TV or during the time, you can do all your banking with the TV remote control.
Recording 7.3.
Good morning. My name's Diana Holden. I'm the Finance Director for BZ Systems. I'm here today to talk to you, our shareholders, about the bright future ahead for our company. I'll start by reporting on last year's financial results. Then I'll talk about our recent performance in the past quarter. Finally, we'll look at our projections and the company's expansion plans for the future. I'm sure you'll agree that BZ is growing from strength to strength. There'll be an opportunity at the end of my presentation to ask any questions you have.
Recording 7.4.
What we've got here is a chart showing how our markets are expected to outperform Western Europe over the medium term. The data comes from Zenith Optimedia, who do independent forecasting for TV ad markets. And what you can see from year 1 through to year 7 is that Western Europe is expected to gradually recover in advertising terms, but that Eastern Europe, as shown here, indexed to year 1, by year 7 will be over double the year 1 market, i.e. over the next 5 to 6 years, our sales are expected to double as well.
Recording 7.5.
We've had an impressive 9 months this year. If we look at this chart, you can see our segment net revenue, which is all of our stations added together. In year 1, revenue almost doubled between the third and fourth quarters to $40 million. That brought our revenue for year 1 to $119 million. In year 2, our revenue rose by nearly 16% to $138 million. Now, as you can see here, segmented revenue for the first quarter matched the first quarter in year 1. It rose to $40 million in the second quarter. Then revenue in the third quarter fell slightly to around $25 million and grew to $47 million in the fourth quarter. Now, last year was another successful year, with revenue reaching a new high at $176 million. That's 27.5% growth. Particularly notable were the jumps in the second and fourth quarters to $48 million and $62 million respectively. This year we're expecting another great year. Revenue for the first quarter reached $48 million. It rose again in the second quarter to match the fourth quarter of last year. In the third quarter it dipped slightly to $46 million, and we're expecting to reach an all-time high of $70 million in the fourth quarter of this year.
Recording 7.6.
We'll have more on that in our midday bulletin. And now, turning to today's European business news.
Excuse me, could you turn up the volume, please?
Certainly, mate, no problem.
In Germany, trouble at Erstaunliche Autos continues following corporate restructuring and the resignation of former company chairman Wolfgang Ferdinand. New head of EA, Bernd Wolf, has seen the ongoing scandal as a chance to push through reform and is looking to increase productivity and boost profits by €4 billion over the next 3 years. Drastic cost cuts of up to €7 billion will need to be made to reach that target. Herr Wolf spoke to the press
How
earlier
did they
today,
hear about that?
maintaining a positive front despite the challenges faced by his company.
The best thing is to concentrate on producing profitable cars. We have to be competitive. The market is extremely aggressive right now.
More details of EA's cost-cutting plan will come after the Supervisory Board meets in Frankfurt to discuss the measures. Inside sources claim the new chief of EA will be closing the Belgian car plant. Our Belgian correspondent Dan Foster reports.
What you can hear in the background are the angry protests at the factory gates of Erstaunliche Autos. Today, these workers may be about to lose their jobs on the assembly line. Recently appointed company chairman Bernd Wolf is denying factory closure.
No decision has been taken on closing any of our factories. However, we shall certainly be studying all kinds of proposals to ensure steady growth in the future.
A decision to close the factory would be a bitter blow to Belgium and its car-making industry. But Bernd Wolf heralds the start of a new era and says the German car manufacturer has to save money in order to survive. It is said he wants to open a new factory in India, where assembly line workers earn less than a fifth of their German counterparts. Dan Foster, Antwerp.
Oh, that was supposed to be confidential information.
Now for our Asia report. China's car makers are currently establishing themselves in Western markets.